is hard to describe the perks of being a wallflower. It is hard to describe this book to someone who has not read it. It is hard to describe this book to someone who is not a student during this pandemic. It is hard to describe my experience reading The Perks of Being a Wallflower if you are not me. It is hard to read The Perks of Being a Wallflower and experience it if you are not at the exact same crossroads that Charlie, Sam, and Patrick are at, but I will try. The first thing that strikes me about Perks is how loud it is. Perks is bursting both with the soundtrack that Stephen Chbosky writes and with life. It is hard to describe a book as alive, but Perks is that. Perks exudes life. A key theme throughout Perks is remembering to live and to live passionately. It is remarkable that the book itself lives passionately, along with its characters. I mentioned at the beginning that it is hard to describe my experience reading The Perks of Being a Wallflower without being me, but I will try. If you are me, at page 53, you will read the line,
I just hope to remember to tell my kids that they're as happy as I look in my old photographs. And I hope that they believe me.
Here's where you first begin to cry, and make a mental note to print out photos of your friends, because your walls are beginning to look sparse. 10 pages later, on page 61, Charlie writes out the B-side of the mixtape that he gives to Patrick. It is highly unlikely that Chbosky planned this out, but if you begin to listen to the mixtape right after Charlie finishes listing the songs, the next 100 pages play out cinematically, perfectly timed to the music.
Sing me to sleep, sing me to sleep. I'm tired and I want to go to bed.
On page 70, you will read the line,
I want to make sure that the first person you kiss loves you, okay?
You will remember your first kiss, and the first person you loved, and begin to cry again. On page 72, Charlie will reach the third stanza of his poem, and at the same moment, Simon and Garfunkel's Scarborough Fair begins. Here, your crying turns into sobs. Scarborough Fair first appears in The Graduate, a film about a young man trying to find himself, which you just watched with your dad. You don't get to watch movies with him that often anymore. After this point, the tears never really stop. It's just a matter of how hard they fall. You sob again when Charlie's sister misremembers It's a Wonderful Life.
Every other year she says something about how Mary was working for a living. And just because she's married doesn't mean she's worthless.
Where's that money, you silly, stupid...
And Charlie wishes someone told Uncle Billy that his life had meaning too.
It means bankruptcy and scandal and prison. That's what it means. One of us is going to jail. Well, it's not going to be me.
On page 96, Chbosky writes,
And I never wanted to. You have to believe me.
Have to believe me. In reference to Charlie wanting to kill himself. At that point, Dusk by Genesis ends, and it ends with loud, heavy piano chords. A moment that feels final and signals a shift in Charlie's perspective. It feels ultimate and hollow. As Charlie's mental health deteriorates, you become more panicked, because those feelings that he's feeling are the same ones you are feeling now, and you feel lucky that you aren't exposed to the drugs that Charlie is. You don't want to spiral that much. On page 164, Chbosky name drops The Graduate, and you have to lay down on your bed and sob, because that's when you know that Chbosky's choice of Scarborough Fair was intentional, and that the connection you have been drawing between Charlie and Dustin Hoffman's characters were intention. The constant tears that have been flowing return to the gut-wrenching sobs that destroyed you at the beginning of the book, come back at the end of the novel, when it is revealed that Charlie was abused by his aunt. This is the reveal that reframes all of Perks, and it fully destroys you. Your copy of The Perks of Being a Wallflower includes an additional letter from Charlie for the 20th anniversary republication of the novel. The final thing Charlie writes is, "He made it. So will you." Your mom finds you clutching the book and a box of tissues, incapable of speaking. She brings you a cookie.
Seriously? Why is this happening to me?
After finishing The Perks of Being a Wallflower, you begin to wander around your room aimlessly. You move to the bathroom and continue to pace. Maybe a bath will be nice, you think. You end up just sitting in your bathtub, fully clothed, without the water running. Eventually, you decide to just lay on your bed and take a nap. Perks hasn't left your mind. You call your best friends. Tell them you miss them. Remind them that you love them. Ask them if they know about college yet. I don't get a prom or a graduation ceremony. I don't get to say goodbye to my own Charlies. I don't get to see the Rocky Horror Picture Show with my friends anymore. But The Perks of Being a Wallflower reminds me that someday I will. It won't be like Charlie, Sam, and Patrick's journey, but it will be something just for me.
And I saw my reflection in snow.
Give it to me! Natalie's orphan! I'm your biggest fan! Give it to me!
Oh, mirror in the sky, what is
Oh my god! So baby!
Can a child in my heart?
She's not baby, but she's waving a gun around like
Can I
that.
sail through the changing ocean?